Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 46 of the Spawn Point podcast. Today, I am joined with Matt the Beedrill Jackson.
Yeah.
And Ebbie the Vulpix Jelly. That works. How's everyone doing today?
Sounds like a horrible sort of like food. Like, would you like some Vulpix jelly?
Yeah, God, it is the best jelly in the Pokemon Kingdom, I hear. Today's episode is sponsored by Virtual Gladiators. You can get 10% off Minecraft server hosting with the code Vectra. And we're going to be talking about a couple of things today. We're going to be talking about the new crowdfunding site called Fig. And then we're going to go on to talk about Nintendo's patent application for a diskless system. So, Fig, the crowdfunding site, has been set up. And have any of you really heard about that site at all?
I know that the way that it's supposedly going to work is that, unlike Kickstarter, when you fund a campaign or fund a game, as it were, you actually get some equity over that, so you actually get some profit back. Like, if the game does really well, you will actually get some money back for that. You get a percentage in part of the profits, I believe.
Yeah, it's not everyone does. So it's been set up by three of the guys, Tim Schafer, Brian Fargo, and Fergus. I'm going to murder his name. Urquhart, U-R-Q.
Urquhart now?
Urquhart. So it's the guys from Double Fine, In Exile, and Obsidian. And basically it's kind of a hybrid Kickstarter site. So from stuff between $20 and $1,000, which are the reward tiers, you can just put money as if it's a Kickstarter campaign. But above $1,000, you can actually, like Matt said, get equity back.
Oh, so you have to put a certain amount in before. You can't just put like $1 in and get like.
No, and in order to get money back, you need to have had a significant investment. So you need to have earned more than $200,000 per year over the last 2 years, or have a net worth of over $1 million, not including the value of your property.
Well, it looks like I'm not going to be getting any equity.
So pretty much it's like that part of it is going to be put towards people that have got a fair amount of money, and like $1,000, that's a bit of pocket change. You can just chuck it because your net worth is a fair amount. Now, they have talked about actually sort of lowering it potentially, but at the moment that's going to be sort of the starting level. And the way that it's going to work as well as you know, like Kickstarter, there's loads of games on the site at the moment. It's actually got like the panel, so the three guys are gonna sort of look at the games, and every month there's gonna be a game out to basically kickstart on Fig. So the first one that they've got is Outer Wilds, which is a space exploration game, and it's got a goal of $125,000.
Is it just one game at a time then? Like, is it just like you can only have one game featured on the site at a time, or can you have just... Because at the moment it's just the one, but I don't know, because they've got this advisory board where they sort of look at the game and then accept it, and it's a bit harder to get through than, say, Kickstarter. Is it just going to be like one at a time? When that ends, you get another one featured? Or have they not really said?
Yeah, it looks like it's just going to be one campaign running at a time. And it's going to like rotate between studios like Obsidian and In Exile and Double Fine. And I mean, immediately the fact that Double Fine's involved with this is kind of flagging up a bit of an alarm bell, seeing as Double Fine's had stuff like Space-Based DF9, their sort of early access game, which was just shoved out onto the shelves and said, oh, it's complete, even though half the features they promised weren't actually in the game.
Although Broken Age was probably a bit more successful than that was. I know they've had quite a few crowdfunded projects, but like, if you're just any developer, you could just approach them and be like, hey, I got this game. This is what it is. This is what it's about. This is what I'm asking for. They take a look at it, consider it,
Yeah, so it looks like the projects that are going to go onto it are going to be from up and coming developers, who look like they're actually gonna have something going for them, or people that have actually got a proven track history of games. So it's probably going to be more secure than just backing a Kickstarter game. I say probably. It might not be. Like anything like this, if you put money towards it, you might never see it again. And even if you're putting like $1,000 in, you might to try and get some investment back. If you've got all of this money, you might never see any investment back because the game might either come out and be shit and not make any money.
I think the good thing is though, is the fact that it is game specific, because if you go onto Kickstarter, it's hard to find. If you're just looking for video games, sometimes you have to look under the same section where there's board games. You're like, no, I'm not looking for board games. Oh, you're looking for card games? I'm not looking for card games. I'm looking for video games. And you have to sort of filter through. It's quite hard to filter through exactly what you're looking for if you're looking for just that. So this site sort of piqued my interest a bit with the fact that it is purely for game developers rather than anything else. Because the only time I really pay attention to Kickstarter or even consider maybe putting something towards it is when it's gaming related.
Yeah. That's it. And I mean, with the fact that they are going to be doing one at a time as well, like you said, it's really hard to sort of transfer through everything on Kickstarter. So if you don't like what they're going to be putting up that month, then you just like, nah. You can just shove it to the side. Interestingly, though, the president of the company is actually the guy that played Hero in Heroes.
I love that guy.
Isn't there like 3 different CEOs? Because I'm sure if you look at their site, it's like this person's a CEO. Oh no, president. You're saying.
So yeah, so the guy that's actually the guy that's the president of the company that's going for Outer Worlds, which is their first campaign.
Oh right, I thought you meant for the actual people running Fig, not like.
No. Yeah, so what are your thoughts on sort of this new crowdfunding site? I mean, is crowdfunding just getting to that stage now where it's just like I think it's starting to burst, isn't it? The bubble is starting to burst in crowdfunding.
Well, the problem is I've seen, like Divinity Original Sin has got a little bit of flack for the fact that people see, like, if you're making a sequel on crowdfunding, people instantly go, well, you use crowdfunding for the first one, why do you need it again? Like, surely you've made the money back. The problem is that on the other side of that, people don't realise how much money it takes to actually make these games. And they think, oh yeah, it can't be that expensive to make a game. It is. Like, it takes a lot of money. In fact, like with the original Divinity Original Sin, they almost went bankrupt because they were having to, like, not only from the money from Kickstarter, but they were taking extra loans out from the bank, I read somewhere, to get it to the level they were happy for, that they weren't sure they could pay back if it didn't prove success. I
think the other thing is, like, with something like Kickstarter or even early access, like the money that's coming in, people are essentially like pre-purchasing a copy of the game, assuming it comes out, and they're people that won't be buying the game afterwards. So if they use all of the capital that they raise from like Kickstarter or Figure or something like that, and don't really sell any copies of the game afterwards, they're not getting any profit from making that game. So of course they're going to be going back to Kickstarter or something, or crowdfunding to make a second one, because the money that they would have at the end of it is significantly less.
I would disagree with you when you said that you thought that the bubble was bursting in terms of crowdfunding. Personally, I would disagree with you because I think we're only starting to just get like the fruits of what were the first Kickstarted video games. Like, it's not been that long since Pillars of Eternity came out. I think Mighty Number 9 is either about to just come out or has just come out.
I think it was more. I think towards the end of last year was when they started to surface a lot of the most notable ones. I mean, you had ones like Like Broken Age did have like 2 separate acts, but the first act came out last year, but the complete game is what you would consider. It didn't come out until like March of this year or something.
No, I disagree with that. You had stuff like FTL was a Kickstarter game that came out a couple of years ago. Wasteland 2, that came out this year.
But that was,
that's just coming out again.
But the thing is, though, that was in beta for a long time, wasn't it? Like this isn't like a complete final version, because some games there's some games on Kickstarter where it'll be like, okay, look, you order you help fund the game, then you go into alpha, then you go into beta. Like the games are in different states. There's some games like Divinity, Original Sin, that was in a playable state pretty much. It was just to finish off a lot of the game. But there's some games that haven't even started being made yet that are on Kickstarter that have to go through alpha and all that stuff. But it's more or less when you get the final product, I think you should really sort of look at
Yeah, so Wasteland released the 19th of September 2014 after it being released in a playable alpha in December 2013.
Yeah, so sort of like end of 2014 to now. That's sort of the time frame where we're starting to see like the majority of the
products.
Yeah, of the sort of most memorable ones, I'd say, or the most successful ones probably.
Elite Dangerous as well was December last year.
It's not just the fact that we're just starting to see like these final complete versions of the games coming out now. We're also just on the back of the I don't remember the name. Bloodstained, was it? Bloodstained Kickstarter, the Shenmue.
Yeah.
Shenmue and the Ukulele Kickstarter, all of which did phenomenally well. So
yeah. I suppose, but there's also other failed Kickstarters. One of the most notable ones that I can think of is Yog Ventures. Which
I was just thinking that in my head. I was like, is it Yog Ventures? Like, yeah, that was...
Yeah, Yog Ventures, which was cancelled in July 2014, where they just completely were like, we can't do this anymore.
But that was at the point where it got funded, and then it was like, okay, we're going to make this game. We got all this money. Didn't really spend it wisely, because it's like you could just chuck loads of money at somebody, and somebody can have all the money in the world, but if they don't know how to use it properly, it's beyond useless, because it's like, here, have $10 million, and you're like, well, and make a good game. Like, if someone gave you $10 million and said, make a amazing game that, gets at least, a few 100,000 sales, you're not going to know where to start. You're not going to know, how much money do I spend on these different things? Who do I need to hire to work on this game? How much do I pay them? What needs to be the priority?
Unless you've played Game Dev Tycoon.
Well, that's a very that's probably not that realistic to,
But, I mean, I think the interesting thing about figures, like, essentially what's going to happen is when the game gets funded, the money, from what I understand, from over like the $1,000 mark, is going to go into almost like a holding account, and then that's going to be funding into the actual person that's making the game, and then all of that will come back to the investor. So and then on the actual website, there's going to be like a progress bar. So this game is in like an alpha stage, and it's going to actually, from what I hear, it's going to actually be like focused more on showing you how far the game is in development, and being a lot more in the eyes of like the investors or in people that fronted money than Kickstarter, where it's kind of up to the person that's done the Kickstarter to actually go and do an update and say, yeah, we're doing something. We've bought.
Are they gonna have this thing? I know, like, there's Indiegogo, which has 2 different types of campaigns, where there's one where it doesn't need to reach a certain amount for you to get funding, and there's one where it's like flexible something or other, where regardless of how much comes in, it doesn't need to be a certain amount. Like, if you fund it, that money's going out regardless of what total amount it reaches. I don't know. Are they just going to have like a Kickstarter thing where it's like you have to reach that goal, or are they going to have? Or do they really mention that yet?
I'm not entirely sure. I would assume that it's a Kickstarter type thing. So if they don't reach that goal, then everything is like gone and they can't do anything. But also like the funding amount as well is also includes stuff that's coming from outside investment as well as like the actual Fig started game.
Oh, I see.
Sounds like it's a little bit more transparent than Kickstarter.
It seems a little bit more transparent, but it's a lot more complex.
I mean, do you remember when Kickstarter had like their refund, like they changed their policies, but when they had the whole Yog Ventures thing and that whole incident, it was very wishy-washy about like what could happen if the campaign never, like the project or the product never comes to light. What happens in that situation? I kind of feel like Kickstarter were ill prepared in that manner. Like they just weren't really expecting that to be a big deal. And then it's like, oh, well, maybe you get your money. I don't know. It depends on if they're willing to give it back to you and all this sort of, it's a very sort of wishy-washy type thing of like, there wasn't a definitive thing of like, can I get my money back if it doesn't turn out?
Yeah, that's it. And like, there was, it's kind of like Kickstarter's just like, you know what, we're just gonna kind of wash our hands a bit of everything that happens. But there has actually been some cases of people actually suing, people for not getting their products. And I feel like something like this is probably being set up to try and, like, say, knock that on the head and actually be a bit more focused on the funding.
But I feel a bit more, I think I feel a bit more confident about early access than I do crowdfunding, because in the sense of actually putting my money up front, in the fact that at least when I get early access, if I know I'm happy with the core gameplay that's there, like the thing with early access is the most important thing is buy the game for what it is now and the gameplay that you're getting on the day of purchase, not for what it's going to potentially be in a year's time, because so many people fall down that trap of like, oh yeah, no, but I know this game isn't that great now, but they've promised all these features in a year's time. It's like, don't ever put your money on, you know, put your money towards somebody else's promise, because all it is words, you know, it's not actually there. They're just saying it. They could just say, oh, we changed our, you know, a year later they could say, oh, we tried it, it didn't really work out, that feature, so we're just gonna, you know, like they had with, what was it? Space Base DF9, what was it?
Space Base DF9, yeah.
And they just said like, oh, they have all these plans, and they're like, we're just going to ship it as is. And it's that problem of when you go on Kickstarter and you're funding a game, you don't actually, with a lot of them, you don't know what the final game's going to be like. You don't know what it's going to turn out like. And you're taking a real big gamble there.
I mean, even with early access, so even though you're saying, oh yeah, I prefer that, you're still taking a massive gamble. Like,
but it's as long as you can, but only if you can play at the time of. It's not so much if you're buying it and you've seen the gameplay and you're like satisfied with what they've got now. Then like Starbound, for example, has been in early access I think for like 2 years, and that's getting a new update. I've put about 24 hours into that game, and it's because I haven't enjoyed that game because I'm hoping about what's going to be in the future. I've enjoyed what they've got as a base. Like if you've got a solid foundation for a game in early access, that's acceptable enough to where you go. As long as you can enjoy it now, then you're not taking as big of a risk. But Kickstarter is like, you don't even know if you're gonna, that core gameplay is gonna be like.
I suppose the question is like, would you prefer to have something, and obviously you're saying you prefer to have something, would you prefer to have something or potentially the promise of something? And you're saying as long as you have something that you think is good at the moment, it doesn't really matter what it's going to be like in the future, because you're happy with that.
If I can be happy with what I got as a base game at that specific point in time, I probably feel like I've got my money's worth, and anything that happens in the future, I can say, well, like, because I'm sure you could roll back, because they always have a thing where it's like, with a lot of them, you can go into like new updates, like a beta phase, or you can roll it back to like the previous version. I just think there's still a risk, but I think there's less of a risk because at least you've got some of your money's worth if you can enjoy what's already there.
Kind of. Yeah, I get where you're coming from. I don't know, Ebbie, do you have any thoughts on that? On this,
I've kickstarted games.
Which games have you kickstarted?
Actually, I think I've kickstarted a game.
Oh, what game was that?
Game.
Which was Yooka-Laylee.
Okay.
But I've never bought into early access because something about early access makes me wholly uncomfortable, and I have no idea what it is about. I think it's because partly I could trust the devs of Yooka-Laylee in a way because I've played Banjo-Kazooie and I really like that.
Record.
Yeah, exactly. So I was like, you know what? Put in 15 quid in so that they can make another Banjo-Kazooie-like game. Cool. But something about early access, I think it's partly that you don't get like an early access discount. It's just like you pay the price for the game.
I think it depends. Sometimes they have special, but there is some developers have like a point, they don't want to put like a early discount thing to sort of entice people into early access. They'd rather they buy it. Like Rust is a good example. You know when they have like the Steam sales. And there's lots of early access games sometimes that say, for a limited time only, it's 30% off or something. And the creators of Rust were basically like saying, well, we're not going to put any discounts on our game until the game's out because we want people to come to early access because they're happy with the product they're getting now, not because it's on a really cheap deal and they feel like they've got screwed over. So I guess it kind of works in two ways because you don't want to.
I guess so.
Even Kickstarter is a bit dodgy when you get discounts.
I actually lied though because I played Minecraft before that was out beta, so I guess that was technically like the earliest of access games because I don't know if many games did that before Minecraft.
Yeah, no, it's all Minecraft's fault.
They started it.
I mean, yes, someone like, I remember Dean Hall saying, like, really long ago back in the day. He said,
I want a game that isn't a game at E3. Is that the one?
No, he was saying, don't purchase the DayZ early alpha unless you wanted to actively support the development of the game and see it.
You should have just stopped at that point. Don't buy the early access. Don't buy DayZ standalone.
That made me really angry when that happened, when he was like, don't buy this because it's a horrible buggy mess. And I'm like, but why have you put it up on Steam then?
Yeah, you should put it on early access. Like, there's a degree where early access, I think, should be treated as it should be in a playable state and then you roll out updates to it. Like, you have to have that good foundation, a solid foundation, and have the core gameplay there and then expand upon it. Because you get some games, they're like in like alpha version 0.8. Like literally there's loads of bugs. Your save games might get wiped. You might lose progress. Things might not work. And it's like, well, I don't want to have to buy the game now and then wait for a year for it to be playable.
I think I've just figured it out. I think I've just figured out what I prefer about Kickstarter to early access is that I feel like when you buy into an early access game, you are beta testing it. But when you kickstart something, it's more like a pre-order. Like a pre-order.
You get in really early stages sometimes.
In the hopes that you'll get the game.
I was just about to say, like what Matt was explaining, that pretty much is the reason that you're getting a buggy game is because it's an alpha, and that's the whole description of alpha, is that alpha, you're meant to be fixing or like implementing all of the features, and then beta is when you're going in to fix all the bugs.
Alpha isn't for us to see.
Yeah, do you remember back in the day when alpha was like in-house testing, beta was sometimes I'm getting beta access. That was a weird thing at a time. There was a time where that was weird, like let alone alpha. Having beta access was weird. And now it's become like alpha's become not just like in-house testing, but it's like, come on, try our.
You know what we used to do in-house. You can buy your way into that now.
But I mean, it's effectively becoming like almost pre-alpha stuff. It's almost becoming like to that point because that it's just going to get to the point where it's like, okay, we've got an idea for a game, and as soon as you can control the character, we'll let you buy it.
Hi, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. There's been some technical difficulties, so there's probably an awkward cut in the video somewhere. But we're going on to our second topic now, which is about a Nintendo patent that was actually filed back in February of this year, but it's come to light this week, and over the weekend someone flagged it up on NeoGAF. And this is actually for a console which is going to be a standard sort of home console, but it's not going to have a disk drive in it. looks like it's going to have a hard drive and a card slot, or an external hard drive, an internal hard drive, and a card slot. The example didn't have an optical disk drive, and this includes a communication unit for transmitting and receiving a program and or data via a network, and a processor excluding a program stored in a hard drive to perform game processing. So the question is, could this potentially be related to the NX console that Nintendo has spoken about and said they're not really going to talk about it until next year? And I guess really, are we going to be happy with, if you guys bought a console, would you be happy with Nintendo releasing a console without any discs? Or would that bother you at all?
So do we know for a fact this is like a home-based console? Is like that? Is there evidence of that anywhere?
I think it said a stationary console.
It's stationary, yeah. So it seems like it's going to be a stationary console, so it's not going to be a handheld one at all.
Okay.
Okay, so we talked about this on Permadeath earlier, and the thing that got brought up was the fact that they're using cartridges that could perhaps be swapped out from the home console to put into the handheld, because they made a really good point. Well, they made a really clear point with when they said anything about the NX, it was that it was going to be something to do with the home console and something to do with a handheld device.
Like a mix between the two.
Like they were trying to marry the two
going
together.
Going back to that whole thing about them saying that, I'm sure that I said to Andy at some point about like, oh, the NX is going to be supposedly this hybrid between like mobile and home, at which point you dismissed me and said, no, they're focusing other stuff with mobile. But
they are doing
no. Excuse me. I called it saying it was going to be a home console with a part that you could take out and it would be like carry away. So like the gamepad, only instead of it being playing within the home, it'd be like the 3DS almost, and you could take it away.
Yeah, that's what they've said that they're going for, I think. Or to my understanding, that's what I took away from what they said about it.
So it supposedly would run on cartridges instead, is that?
That's what it seems like it's going to do.
Would that be, can you store that much on a cartridge compared to a
I mean,
disc?
they've got Xenoblades.
Yeah, that was the thing that I brought up as well, is they can fit Xenoblade Chronicles, which is a huge JRPG, onto a Nintendo 3DS
But
cartridge.
that's a portable system as opposed to, like, the expectations I think are a lot higher for a home console.
But I think Nintendo are at the stage now where they know that they're probably not going to be able to get up to the same sort of spec as like the PlayStation 4 or the Xbox One, and they've really sort of departed from the whole sort of race between those two, and they're going to make their Nintendo-based solution, which is what they're making, sort of games that run well on the Wii U. For example, like Mario Maker's going to be playing on the gamepad stuff gimmick that they've taken out, and potentially I could see them doing that.
I think someone mentioned as well that they would use something akin to like 32 gigabyte SD card things, whereas I think Wii U discs at the minute hold about 24 gigabytes.
But it kind of makes more sense to kind of be. I feel like maybe if it's cartridge, so maybe they're just trying. I think what Nintendo is effectively, they're just trying to reinvent the wheel, aren't they? Because the problem with the Wii U, a lot of it supposedly is down to the fact that people already had like iPads, and there was this rise of tablets. And the Wii U was trying to be like, it had this gamepad thing, but people already had tablets, and so it wasn't anything too mind-blowing. Like when the Wii came out, it was like a very unknown, like, hang on, you control the game with the motion of this like nunchuck remote type thing. And it was a really sort of, no one had really seen it. But then people were like, oh, I've already got a tablet, it looks like a tablet. Even though they are different and they operate differently, at face value, if you're like a kid, or not even a kid, but if you're anyone, even though it's really aimed at, the kids, is you're going to go, well, I've already got an iPad. Do I really need this or want this? I can just use that. So they need to sort of probably do something different. And that it does sound like they're just trying to basically reinvent the wheel and do something completely different we haven't seen before. My only concern is that, like, I don't know, it's with like a Blu-ray disc, you can store just a ridiculous, I think it's like 70 gigs or something on a Blu-ray.
25 gig is on a Blu-ray DVD.
25?
It seems. Yeah. I am looking at a potentially, it's a Wii U disc, sorry, it's 25 gig.
Yeah, no, it's definitely not. Blu-ray's way more. Because you've got games like that, like Witcher 3 and stuff that take up a lot of space.
But Nintendo have never gone for that sort of like realistic graphics, sort of big open world stuff. So I can see why they would be like, oh, we could just switch to doing something on a smaller scale.
But if it's more focused on, are we presuming that they're trying to put more focus on digital content rather than physical, like based upon this, or is it just they're changing the format that physical stuff is read on? Because if they are just trying to focus on digital, the thing with the Wii U is the storage hasn't always been that. Like the space hasn't been that big. Like especially like even though they're not as big in terms, the games don't take up as much space as other systems do. But demos, if you want to have quite a few demos and you want to have other stuff, and like if you just had your entire library digital on like a Wii U, especially with the older ones, I think the storage was even less, wasn't it? So
when they first brought out the Wii U, what we have now is the premium Wii U, which had like 32 gigabytes of storage or something, whereas the normal standard one had 8.
Yeah, it's a big difference there.
And I think we worked out the other day that 3DS, the new 3DS that you got, Ebbie, like the card that they gave you wasn't enough to actually install Xenoblade on.
Yeah,
so that
was like if I had nothing installed on my 3DS, but was just using the memory card that it came with, I wouldn't be able to play Xenoblade Chronicles had I bought it from the eShop, because it's so big.
But the thing is, though, I don't think, even though they're not trying to compete with like level of realism, detail, and all that sort of stuff graphically, and like the power that the other systems have, I don't want them to sort of take a step back, like from the Wii U. I don't think that doesn't mean they shouldn't put an effort in to make their games look good. I don't think
they're going to go backwards. Like, I don't think they're going to be like, you know what looked really good? The N64.
Everything's going to be just
everything with like polygons. I think they'll still keep that graphical integrity that they've got now, but I don't think that they'll make leaps and bounds to improve it, because I don't know how much better they could make Mario look without making him look weird, if you know what I mean.
But the initial thing they need to do, like discless or focusing on cartridges, focusing on discs, focusing on digital, is we need games. Like we need them to. They need to win over. Like a lot of people say that Nintendo doesn't need third party because they've got really good first party games. But
the launch period.
That is true. Nintendo have really good exclusives, and they have like really good first party games, but they don't come often enough for it to be like, there's so many games I'm running out of ones to play. They need to win over third party developers, and if their system is too difficult or like takes too much effort to develop from outside of the other systems, they might not bother, because...
Which was the thing that happened with the Wii U, is when the Wii U got announced, every developer was like, we can't wait to develop games for the Wii U, it's going to be amazing. You don't even know how good this is going to be. Can't wait to make games for it. And then as soon as they realised that the Wii U wasn't selling well, they were like, nah, it's too difficult to develop for. We're not going to.
And it was just, it was a case of just, do we want to put the resources and time into the system? And the problem is, if the install base isn't very big, it's like starting off, developers will be like, well, the install base isn't very big, or bigger than the other ones, so we won't put as much time. We might not develop a game or that many games for it. The problem is then the people buying the system go, oh, well, there's not many games, which is caused because, developers don't think there's much point in doing so they don't buy it. So the install base doesn't increase, and the developers don't get more excited or interested in doing it because the install base isn't growing at a rate that they think would want them to jump on board. It's a sort of vicious cycle, really.
What I think they need to do for the NX in particular is secure enough third-party things to make the launch period more I don't know, impressive than the Wii U's was.
We need less confusion as well.
Yeah.
That's what we
Don't
need.
call it the Wii Me or the
and,
Wii
and
anything.
don't just show us the controller
X.
and then go and make us think this is an extension of the Wii, which everyone thought initially, and then just walk off.
See now, I think like if the Wii U had released with something like Mario Maker, from what I'm hearing of everyone that's actually played it, they're saying that it makes a really good use of the controller and like being able to create stuff on the actual control pad and everything. And like if that had been a launch title, then it would potentially have sold a lot more consoles.
And it would have won over a lot of people. And then developers would go, wow, like this install base for this system has jumped massively, like a really successful launch. And then they go, we should make games for this because there's a lot of players on that system in a short space of time. And then more people go, I'm going to buy a Wii U because more people are making games, and everybody wins. Apart from Sony and Microsoft.
Now the one thing that I'm kind of a bit on the fence with the hey, it's going to be one cartridge for the actual system, the home system or the stationary system, and then one cartridge or the same cartridge for the mobile one, is the fact that the fact that you're having a mobile system, will that stunt the graphical ability or the actual games themselves? Like, it will be locked to whatever this handheld system would be able to do. That would be the maximum graphics you could
Damn it.
have planned both. So, I mean, you might be able to have that, and you might be able to take it away, but then you'd be stuck at.
I 100% agree with that point.
Okay, I think I know what you were trying to get at there. You started
Did it
again.
just completely fuck up?
Yeah.
Okay, so what I was saying is you've got the one cartridge for the home, the stationary system, one cartridge, the same cartridge for the mobile system. The mobile system will potentially stunt the ability of the stationary system with the graphics. And if you're playing the same game off the cartridge, then it will have to be up to the mobile system's graphical fidelity. And
so it can't handle. Is it going to be, if it's too power, like if you're going to have, if this is what they're doing, if they are trying to have, like, if what we believe to be true is they are trying to have this, like, blur the lines between mobile and home. That's a very bold thing to do, and I sort of, tip my hat to them for trying to innovate and trying something new that hasn't really been, the idea hasn't really been played around with that much. But exactly. There is that problem. If you're going to make it too powerful for it to be mobile, they can't handle it. But then you don't want to make it too weak for the home console, where it's like on a big TV, this just looks like utter turd, and then this is just running like crap. Then you have to find a middle ground, and it's like if they can do that, and whether we'll notice, and it's interesting, though, I think.
And then the other thing is, like, if they're gonna have like potentially a mobile version and a home version of the same game on like the same cartridge, then developers are just going to be like, that is fucking complex to make two copies of the game on that one cartridge or what memory card or whatever they're going to do, and then that'll potentially turn people off.
I don't know. I think you carry on.
Okay, I was just going to say on a side note about, like, in terms of like game lineups, how many between now and when let's say the NX is probably going to launch
Christmas.
Late 2016, probably. Between now and then, how many games are there that you are looking to buy or excited for? I saw that on Twitter they released a list of, these are the games we have coming out between now and whenever, like towards the end of the year, maybe, I think. But a lot of them was like Yoshi's Woolly World, that's already come out here.
Star Fox.
Yeah, some of them were 3DS titles. It was like if you took away a lot of the things, it was like it's very sort of big gaps between each sort of title. But is there many? What are they?
I mean, the stuff that seems to be like interesting is all coming out in one lump. So it's Xenoblade Chronicles X and Star Fox, really, are the two main ones.
Let me have a look at this list so I can give you a concise.
Did you say Mario Maker, Andy?
Mario Maker, but that's out in like 2 weeks or something, isn't it?
September
the 11th.
Yeah, so they recently announced in 2016 that the Pokken Tournament arcade version is coming to the Wii U finally. It's coming next year. It's like, finally, we've got a Pokemon console game. Like, I'm just...
Yeah,
and
not
it's
the one I wanted, but I'll take it.
Yeah, but I actually quite like especially because I've been watching like the anime recently, and I watched the Pokemon battles on there. I'm like, this is really cool. And I love, like, how it's all happening in real time. And then I go to play the game, and
It's not the same.
not a stab at the game, but I've had so many of the games where it's like, okay, I do my attack, then you do yours. And the idea of having a Pokemon fighting game that happens in real time feels a lot more like the anime to me, and that's kind of... it makes me a bit excited, because I'm like, this is really cool, I can't wait to try it out, like, because I've never had that sort of type of fighting with Pokemon before. I mean, there's Super Smash, but that's only got a few, and it's mixed with other characters. It's not, its own game. So,
there's a few games coming out that I'm excited for. For example, Xenoblade Chronicles X. Star Fox is the big one for me, and everyone seems to have forgotten that Zelda's supposed to come out next year.
Yeah,
so,
it's hard to sort of talk about it or not forget about it, because we've not heard anything since E3 last year?
No, it was after E3 last year. They did like it wasn't a direct or anything, it was just, they were like, here's a bit of the gameplay, and it looked awesome. It looked cool.
Yeah, I remember that. I was like, is this a Wii U game?
And that was when they sort of announced Star Fox, because Eiji Aonuma went to Miyamoto, just went, so how's Star Fox coming? And he's like, it'll be finished before Zelda's finished.
That was it. Yeah, so, I mean, there's not that much, really.
You say that, but one of the games that we're excited about is Xenoblade Chronicles X, which is not going to be portable. So I think, honestly, if Xenoblade Chronicles X comes out in December of this year, and we get a new Nintendo console in, like, October, November of next year, I feel like that game by itself will carry me through and make me really, really happy.
I mean, that's
having a Wii U.
That's you, though. Like, that's not necessarily like anyone else.
Yeah, but I'm just pointing out that that's how I feel about it.
I say that, like, Nintendo know how to, when they make a game themselves, they know how to do it right, and you can get a lot of playability out of it.
Unless it's Mario Party 10, because that's pretty bad.
But the one thing that really bugs me about Nintendo, or one of the things that bugs me the most about Nintendo, is just how they're still so intent on having local co-op in games and not having online. Now, I understand there's a lot of people that like couch co-op, and they have their friends round and they play Mario Party or whatever, but there's a lot of us that just play with people online. Like, we have friends that play games, but we don't always go, oh, do you want, like, especially some of my friends, they live really far away from me. I'm not going to go, oh, do you want to come away down to mine to play some Splatoon, for example. When it's a lot of fun, but that's sort of
like the games that I play on the Wii U. So I've some Smash, Mario Kart, and Splatoon.
That's 3 games.
They've all got fairly decent online modes.
But that's 3 games over the period of like 3 years.
They do need to step it up with the online stuff. I admit that, like, pretty heavily. But I think they took a step in the right direction with Splatoon, because the co-op stuff on that, like the couch co-op stuff on that, is awful. It's really not that good.
I mean, but that's the thing. It's like Splatoon has just about lasted me to the point of where Mario Maker's coming out. It's almost like that came out and it's like, how long is this game going to last me and distract me enough until the next Nintendo game comes out that I want to get? And then it's like, oh, maybe Mario Maker will last me a bit until Xenoblade comes out, and I'll try that out and see how long that lasts me. It's like, there is big gaps, but because you have to rely on that next game being good to sort of tide you over to the next game. But they are kind of, like, when they do come out, they're really good, I think. But there's such a big gap between them that you have to sort of, you've got to really like that game. If you don't have another system, you have to really love Splatoon.
The good thing about the Wii U as well is it's eShop stuff. Like, I can go, I feel like playing Donkey Kong Country's on there. Feel like playing that, I can buy it for $5. Cool. So that's probably one of the things that's kept me going through like the dry periods of releases and stuff, is having older games.
I mean, the way that they release stuff, it kind of feels like they're stuck in like the old ways of when people got one game and that was literally all you could afford when you were a kid. You had that one game for like 4 months or so, and that was it. You played the shit out of that game until you got the next one.
Just, it's funny because I was reading something, I don't think it was a recent article, but I was reading something relating to the Pokemon games on 3DS, and it was about how X and Y interviewing Game Freak about why those games were a lot easier and had a lot less Pokemon than the previous games. And they actually, it was almost like a statement kind of going against that, what you just said, is because they were like, well, when people were younger and in the past in gaming, people used to just get one game and they used to play, like you said, play it a really long time. Now we find that people are playing, the chances are this is the only game that they're going to be playing for the next few months is highly unlikely, because they might not have every system, but they might have there's, mobile games popping up, like on the tablet, which is similar to the gamepad. There's all sorts of other games coming out on loads of different systems. And I mean, you look at the list of the games coming out between like this week all the way to the end of the year. There's over 20 different games coming out that are like big titles. And then in between that, you've probably got loads and loads of indie games coming out. And in between that, you've probably got loads of little free-to-play mobile games coming out. So it's like so much that they kind of, I feel like they're struggling because they might not be able to they can't sort of get away with that as much now, because the way that the amount of games we play and how long we play them for is changing constantly, I think.
I'd agree with that.
Yeah, there's access to a lot more than there used to be, and some of them are cheaper as well. Like especially on PC, like you're saying, there's all of these indie games that you're saying they're coming out as well. They're not necessarily full price games. You can pick up some of them for like £5, and people can just, like our age, like now we've got a lot of more disposable income than when you're a kid. You can just say, I can afford £5 on a game, and you can do that a few times.
And then you get all these sales they do, like you get like the summer sales, and then you get also like PlayStation Plus, they do their free games every month, Xbox do their free games every month. Like Steam sales, you could buy like 10 games and not even, be in triple digits. You could just, like, oh, I spent £20, how many games did you get? Oh, I got 10. It's like some things are just really cheap, and it's so easy to, so I think they need to sort of pick up the pace. The only problem with third-party titles is, and I had this recently, I was like, okay, well, this game's coming out, and am I going to get it? I'm at the point now I've got all three systems, and I'm like, okay, the game's coming out on all three systems. Do I play it on the Wii U, or do I play it on something that is the same game effectively, but without the gamepad that's got more power behind it?
We're talking about Zombie.
No, it's not Zombie. Lego Dimensions. Because I haven't played a Lego game in a while, and that game's meant to just merge loads of different universes. Like they've got the Portal stuff, Doctor Who, like just, all weird scenarios of different crossovers. And I was like, okay, this game's coming out on the Wii, it's coming out on the PS4 and the Xbox One. I can get it on the Wii U, but then I'm getting that same game, but with less power behind the system. And it's sort of like, well, what is there to sort of convince me to play third-party games on that system? But if done right, having this sort of mobile and home console, this could be, they could have, I think they could have another Wii on their hands where, if done right, they could dominate the market again. If done wrong,
they just have Wii on their hands.
Another Wii U on there. They could have
they just have Wii.
Wii just Wii U on your hand.
Yeah.
One thing that I love about that idea is they're going, oh, I'm playing this game, but I've got a train journey that I've got to take, so I'll just take the game with me. I love that idea. I want that to be the reality so badly.
Like, did you hear about this portable Steam machine? About it's like
briefly.
It's like called the Smack Zero or something, but it has like an image on it saying Steam Boy. And so it uses the Steam OS, and I thought all the other Steam machines seem completely irrelevant, but this is the only time where I was like, okay, that's a Steam machine at least worth, releasing, because it's like I can play my PC games on the go. Like if you can play, I'm playing like all these cheap indie games you play on PC, or you can just take them with you. And I guess that is, if that does work out to be I think that's coming out next year as well. Maybe we'll start to see more of this crossover. But there is that whole thing of like, I really wish I could play this game. Like, I've got to go off. I've got to stop playing this game. Imagine that. Like in a few years' time, we might be going, I've got to stop playing this game now. Oh no, I don't, because I can just play it on this and I can take it with me and pick up where I left off.
We did kind of already have this, like in a way. You had the Vita and I can't remember what it's called. Remote play. You had remote play.
Vita.
Wasn't that a bit dodgy though? Like because
it was a bit
streaming?
jank. Yeah, so it's streamed from your console to your handheld.
So good idea didn't really work out in practice, because I heard people go, "Oh, it sort of works a bit," and then no one ever talked about it again.
So I mean, the idea has previously been about, but maybe if this is what Nintendo have up their sleeve, it could potentially be them doing it right.
I think it would make me more interested in handheld, because I've just sort of gone off handheld quite a bit since like the PSP when that was around. I played that quite a bit, but then since then, I have like a 3DS, but I've only got a few games for it and I barely play them.
I just realised that maybe they used to have a cartridge for the SNES, where you could put your Game Boy games on the top of them, and then you'd put it into the SNES, and you could play your Game Boy games on the TV. I feel like this is that.
Okay.
I feel like... I don't remember what it was called, like the Super Game Boy or something? I don't know.
Yeah, it sounds about right. So potentially, like, you're not going to be able to take your game away with you, the one that will play on the, let's call it the base NX. You won't be able to take that one. But if you got the portable NX game, then you can plug it into the base NX and play it that way. That could work, I guess. Because then it's not limited with all the stuff that I was saying earlier.
This is the last time I'm going to speculate about this until they release any more information, because I just realised I've got all these like dreams in my head where I'm like, I could be playing Pokemon on the TV, but then I could take it somewhere else. And I don't want to get my hopes up about it being something that it's not. So
all right, so I think to stop Ebbie's hopes getting dashed anymore, we'll probably leave it there. We've done a lot of speculating, a lot of talking about Nintendo system, and you know what, we're going to leave it. This week on the site we had a look at Beyond Eyes, and myself and Matt did a game glance at that. So check that out. And also, our friends at Permadeath recorded a podcast today. So that should probably be up by the time you listen to this, but it probably won't be because, I mentioned
also, it. I'd say, let us know in the comments what you think. Just join the speculation bus and let us know, get a ticket. Let us know what you think. Is this gonna, Ebbie cannot read the comments to avoid further disappointment. Mm-hmm. But just to let us know what you think that the system might turn out to be and what you would like to see from Nintendo's next system.
So, on that note, we're going to end this very fractured, glitchy podcast and say until next week or next time, goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.